Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you for participating in our webinar today, Personalization and Performance, How Much Revenue Are You Losing Due to Slow, Infrequent, and Impersonal Follow-Up? I'm Gary Gerber. I'm Head of Product Marketing at Conversica, the leader in conversational AI for business and the only provider of AI-driven lead engagement software for marketing and sales organizations. And my partner in crime here today is the awesome Mr. Gil Allouche, CEO of Metadata.io. Metadata is a next-generation account-based targeting platform, completely automated and operated by AI, helping you generate a predictable, qualified lead flow at scale. Gil, say hello to the nice people, please.
Hello, everyone. Nice to present with you, Gary.
Absolutely. Okay, folks. Lead follow-up is obviously a critical thing, right? Many organizations spend tremendous amounts of money, lots of resources, everything just huge amounts of everything in order to do what's the primary function of marketing, get leads for sales, build a pipeline. And after they spend all those resources, obviously we want to make sure that every one of those leads is being maximized. So to find out if that's what's really happening, we commissioned a research report with several universities to go out and basically present themselves, secret shop, almost 1,000 companies and present themselves as the hottest of leads. If they had a web form, we had them fill out a web form. If they had a sales email, they filled out a sales email, whatever it took to raise their hand and say, I am the lead you're looking for. And then the researchers looked at what happened. And what they observed was kind of shocking and appalling. Of all these companies who spent all these resources to get people to do that, almost almost four out of 10, that's right. In past years, it was a third, it's gone up. Almost 4 out of 10 of those companies completely blew off the person, did not respond at all. After all that work, they didn't contact them and got zero benefit from the lead. And it gets worse. So even of the companies that did respond, almost 2/3 of them gave up after just a couple of tries. And we all know that even if the person raised their hand, the likelihood of reaching them in just a couple of tries is still almost nil. So companies are not doing what they need to maximize their leads. And this is obviously a serious concern. And we also observed something interesting. This is the 3rd year in a row we've done it. Even companies that did really well one year did really poorly another year. So even if it's possible to be good, we've found that it's pretty much, I guess, impossible to be good consistently, at least if you're using humans to do this alone. And we'll talk more about what that means in just a moment. So as this research was going on, the researchers were able to isolate some qualities of the companies that are doing this particularly well. And the qualities of companies that do this well are what are now referred to as the 4 Ps of effective sales follow-up. And it's not good enough to do 1 or 2. You have to be good at all 4, and you have to be consistent. What are the 4 Ps? There's promptness, right? So if you have to be first, if you want to be first. If somebody has raised their hand and expressed interest, you want to make sure you're getting to them as quickly as they expect you to. There's personalization. It's not enough to just follow up quickly, but with something that's impersonal, dear sir or madam, thanks for your inquiry. The person has to actually feel that you care about them and understand what they're asking about. And then there's persistence. As we mentioned before, you can't just give up right away. You have to keep trying, even up to 8, 12 times, whatever it takes. And then there's performance, which we really couldn't come up with a good P for getting your message through spam traps, et cetera. But that's what this means. Obviously, if your message gets caught in a spam track or kicked out, that's from the only perspective that matters, the perspective of the customer. It's as if you didn't follow up anyway. So you have to figure out how to get through there. So, backing up. All 4 Ps are critical. Today, we've already done webinars about how to be prompt and about how to be persistent. And in fact, you can look at our YouTube channel or our resources page on Conversica.com and learn more about those. Today, we're going to be learning more about personalization and about performance. So personalization, right? How are companies doing? And this is what came out of the research. Interestingly, companies are doing pretty well, and that's important because customers, they want to be heard. And they're more likely to respond and engage with a company if the company looks like they're actually listening to them. And Accenture, for example, pointed out that 75% of consumers are more likely to buy from a retailer that recognizes them by name and things like that. And 81% want brands to get to know them. So it's really important. And fortunately, companies are doing better at this, but there's still tremendous room for improvement, obviously. Now, who's doing well and who's not? If you look, industries that are doing well advertising, marketing, as you might expect. This is companies that specialize in how to actually reach people. Automotive sales, which is interesting, they're doing really well. There are a lot of mandates from above. And plus, obviously, if somebody's shopping you for a car, odds are really good that they're shopping 5 other dealerships. So you want to be the first one in there. And then it kind of tapers off from there. So these are the industries that are doing pretty well. Everybody can do better. Now, why do you want to personalize your emails? We talked about this a little bit before. And again, including just a signature, right? That improves the likelihood of a person responding by almost a quarter, which is just incredible stuff, right? Personalized subject line, much more likely to be open. Personalized email messages improves the click-through. It makes sense, but from a quantifiable perspective, it's really true. The results don't lie. The statistics don't lie. So it's important to find ways to be able to personalize your emails, but you also have to be able to do it at scale. And again, we'll talk about what that means in a second. Now, what does maybe a not so well personalized email look like? And this actually wasn't in the presentation until just a couple of days ago. And then somebody who was trying to sell me something sent me an email, and I felt, thank you very much for this. What a great example. So we'll remove names to protect the innocent, but I thought this was kind of awesome. So this is a screen print from the email. Came to me. Subject was, we can help. We can help, not so personalized. And it gives no indication of what I might be interested in. So -1. Oh, they did start with Dear Gary, so there's some personalization. Okay, +1, that's not bad, but I love the way they finished. I don't know if your company is looking for opportunities to add video to its marketing promotions, but if you are, I'd like to introduce blah, 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 blah. Well, if you don't know if my company is looking for it, I'm not going to figure out for you. That's about as impersonal as you're going to get. Spam, click. Well, in that case, what does good personalization look like, you might ask? And here's an example of a well-executed, well-personalized message. And you can see, includes a personalized greeting, as we said, this is to Taylor. Individual email account, it came from a person, not from marketing at or info at. And they mentioned specifically why Taylor was interested. So Taylor knows that they understand him or her and why this is important, and includes, again, contact information from an individual. That's awesome. So these are, at a minimum, the types of personalization you want to make sure you're including in your messaging. So if if people alone, we talked about this before, people alone aren't kind of cutting it, right? If people alone can't do it, so I guess the question is, how do you personalize at scale? We would submit that the way you do it is with artificial intelligence. So the technology has arrived now that allows you to actually leverage an AI sales assistant to do this in a personal way. The AI sales assistant, she provides the best of both worlds, right? Just like a person, she works as part of the human team to improve performance and unlock the team's full potential. She's got a name and a title and an email address and a phone number. And like a human, she's great at engaging leads and qualifying them, and she elevates the hot ones to the salespeople, and she can even follow after. We'll look at what that likes in a moment. But unlike a human assistant, she's infinitely scalable because she's in the cloud, and she doesn't call in sick, and she follows up consistently. She doesn't prejudge leads and say, I only like leads from this source. And she basically is everything good about a human, scalable beyond a human, but she's awesome because she's AI. And those conversations really are personal human conversations. This is a genuine sample. She just, as you can see, she reaches out, very simple message, so it's likely to get through the spam filter. We'll talk about that in a moment. And you can see the person responds. And if they don't respond the first time, she'll follow up 2, 3, 4, 5, 12 times, whatever it takes, with individual, different personalized message. Still, people eventually typically do respond. And once they do, she'll gather up good information about their project and about phone numbers, how to reach them. And now they're engaged and they're happy. She introduces a salesperson, hands them off to the salesperson. And now the salespeople spend their days talking to people like Bill, who want to talk to them, instead of having to cherry pick and figure out who to talk to and who not to. And then she does one other thing. A few days later, she follows up one more time with the prospect and says, hey, did the salesperson get in touch with you? Did you get everything you need? And if the person says yes, that's great. If they didn't, now you have an opportunity to save that deal and understand if perhaps the salesperson needs some kind of help to make sure that they're keeping deals going. So this is pretty amazing stuff. It actually works. Over 1,200 customers, Oracle, Epson, Symantec, and many others are also doing this today. In fact, chances are you as a listener have probably interacted with one of these AI sales assistants and didn't even realize it because you just had a really good interaction with them and you got what you needed. And she can have all sorts of conversations, right? So she can reach out to the lead like we just talked about, engage in inbound, but she can also re-engage inbounds that went cold, and she can reach out before events, and she can upsell or cross-sell your current customers or follow up after an event or engage and qualify partners. All sorts of different, in fact, she can have over 100 different types of conversations. And in all cases, she makes sure that you are 100% consistent with the 4 Ps every single time. All right, so that's personalization. That's how you can achieve personalization at scale. We also promised to talk some about performance today. So let's take a look at that. How did companies perform in the survey? While the picture was somewhat rosy with personalization, it was actually quite alarming from a performance perspective, right? Now, the main reason, of course, is that email providers continue to provide spam filters to the companies, and the spam filters get better and better and better. And it's in fact been shown that about 50% of business emails in general get caught in spam filters. And those are more generic ones. So if you're a marketing type of email, it's even more likely. So also we noticed something interesting, that of the companies that received an A in personalization, a huge percentage of them actually scored well in performance as well. So there's clearly some kind of correlation going on there. So Gil, you're of course going to be talking about performance in just a moment. What do you think this indicates? How can we help?
I think it's fascinating. I think both the information about personalization and performance are fascinating. I think it shows a great deal of need for an automated follow-up. It just shows, it's natural, but still alarming that, how much work you put into getting those leads, like you mentioned, all the money that you put into ads and email campaigns and webinars like the one we're doing right now, and content and events and all of those different efforts, only to get the lead of your dreams to not being followed up on. And so either the email is not personal enough, or it just gets stuck in the spam or the promotion folder, etc., and then you never actually get to benefit from that lead. So I think it's interesting. I'm not really too surprised. I would say we see that fairly often with some of our customers, and maybe that's actually a good segue as we are kind of experiencing with some of our customers, that even if we generate the best leads, the leads of their dreams from their named accounts, kind of similar to the research you did there with university, and those leads don't get followed up. And so that's which something good came out of this, because Conversica and Metadata partnered, and we already have live customers who are benefiting from this. So let me first of all, thank you for running through those slides and talking a lot about personalization and performance. My name is Gil. I'm going to talk a little bit about demand generation. So Gary mentioned, and quite truthfully, that many companies are spending a lot into demand generation, and even in demand generation, there's a good amount of human error. The different programs that the demand generation can run, the different collateral they can manage, different audience that they go after, so on and so forth. There are many moving pieces in streamlining and scaling demand generation. And so Metadata built, similar to Conversica, an AI operator. However, this AI operator doesn't live in the sales aspect of things, but rather in the marketing aspect. And exactly what the AI operator does is it follows a very strict process in which it understands what's worked in the past, who did you successfully sell to in the past, who you should sell to in the future, what are the named accounts, your total addressable market of named accounts you should go after, and who is your buying committee. This is very particular for B2B companies. Understanding who is your buying committee, meaning who are the 4 to 5 people that you have to quote unquote touch in order to get them to come to you and close the deal. And so who are the companies you should go after, who are the people you should go after within those companies. And then the AI operator doesn't just give you the insights, like many solutions out there in the market. It doesn't even go the next stage only of selling you the data and giving you that list. It actually generates the list, lets you preview, and then goes after those people within those companies using your marketing mix, using your existing channels, your existing content, your existing creative, so on and so forth. And the AI operator brings from third-party vendors the contact information, the IP, the cookie ID, so on and so forth. So maybe I'll jump in for a second and actually walk through kind of what it is. At the end of the day, the metadata AI operator doesn't really know what's going to work better than others, like which engagement is going to yield the best engagement from your target account. So the best way for metadata to actually run that successfully is by experimentation. It essentially uses every permutation of your collateral, creative, channel, campaign type, and audience segment to try to see which one would yield the highest response. So imagine hiring an AI operator is just like hiring a team of marketing operations. Imagine hiring a new demand generation manager for your company and a bunch of marketing ops people who join the company. They spend the first week, maybe I'll walk you through the process. They spend the first week understanding and pulling data from the CRM, pulling the Salesforce data, maybe ranking the opportunities. $1 million opportunity that is closed one within a month is going to be ranked higher than a $10,000 opportunity that took a year to lose. But nevertheless, they'll rank all the opportunities because all of them are commercially viable. They will then enrich all the data about the accounts and the contacts associated with that opportunity. We all know that Salesforce is not always full of the best data. Not every salesperson really follows the protocol and puts all the information there with an updated data. And so we rely on third-party data vendors, companies like ZoomInfo, InsideView, AG Data for back-end technology install base, DataNice for front-end technology install base, Bombora for buyer intent, LeadSift for social stream data, so on and so forth. So instead of a manual pool of data like you guys are probably doing today, metadata aggregates all this information from all those dozens of paid data sources, so you don't have to. And it enriches the Salesforce data in such a way that after that, we can run an analysis. The AI operator essentially runs an analysis on that wealthy data set, and it can very quickly determine the coefficient for making a successful sale, meaning what are the attributes that you didn't even have in your Salesforce but are now available because of the enrichment that can determine whether a company and a contact are more likely to be an ideal customer profile. So it will tell you things like, if the company has this particular technology, if they're using, I don't know, Amazon S3, so they're more likely to close because 20% of your best customers come from, from companies who use Amazon S3. And if they come from those 4 industries, they're your ideal customer profile. I mean, they're this location and this company size. And the people that you have to touch in order to close the deal, this is their seniority, their job title, their education, the groups they belong to on LinkedIn, their skill set. You can see each and everything that of the attributes that we brought into fruition using the enrichment process. Each and every one of those attributes can now determine whether this is an ideal customer profile or not. And then with that insight of who was your ideal customer profile so far, you can infer who you should go after in the future. And the AI operator does that for you as well. It will go back to all those data sources that it's connected to with the criteria of your ideal customer profile, and it will actually generate a new list of companies and people within those companies that you should talk to, because they're not yet in your Salesforce, but they should be, because they resemble your best customers. And once you preview it, you can actually preview the audience you're about to target before you target them with metadata. It's not a black box. You can go through each and every one of those companies and contact if you wanted to. And once you verify and confirm with your sales counterpart that if you were to bring those companies and those contacts to him as an inbound lead, they'll be delighted. Now, what the system needs to do is actually execute campaigns against those people within those companies. And the way it does it is by essentially trying every likely to succeed permutation and then start running it at scale and following the results, not only in the impressions and clicks or email opens kind of side, but rather all the way to the lead score and impact on pipeline kind of measurement. So every lead that comes through automatically gets enriched. So even if they just signed up with their email, we go and get the rest of the data about that lead. We also push all the trailing information. What channel did that lead come from? What campaign type? What's the creative they clicked on? What's the content they consumed? What segment of the audience they come from? So on and so forth. So you get really, really granular data into your marketing automation. And later on, you can run very, very effective reports. Just like the kind of polls and research that Gary was showing before, you can show your results from your own marketing automation because now all that data is being recorded automatically. No human has to put a lead source detail, channel, things like that. No prospects need to fill it for you. How did you hear about us? What channel did you come from? No, those are all automatically transcribed into your marketing automation so that later you can run very interesting reports like what's my best performing collateral, my best performing audience? What is the best performing audience for this white paper? What's the channel most of my top deals come from? So on and so forth. But again, the automation here is one, not prone to error, and two, it's constantly learning. Every lead that comes through is automatically enriched. It's being measured to see if that lead fits your ideal customer profile, if it's one of your named accounts, and finally, if it actually created a new opportunity or impacted an existing opportunity in your sales force, in your pipeline. And based on that, the campaign gets measured, whether it's a good campaign that the AI operator created or a bad campaign. And usually the 20-80 rule applies. 20% of the campaigns will yield 80% of your pipeline. And the campaign's performance, for those that are actually performing well, will be through the roof. You'll see campaigns that are extremely targeted and personalized. Imagine that one of the experiments that the AI will run will be, for example, let's take an audience of companies using or competing technology. Let's go and find a technology buyer persona within those companies, and let's find within those companies that are currently in a buying cycle, and let's give them a message that talks about them being a buying cycle and give them a collateral that speaks against the existing technology, competing technology they're using, and why your solution is better. That particular campaign makes total sense, but running those campaigns at scale and generating those audiences and trying multiple creatives to see which one resonates the best with your persona, those things are very hard to achieve with humans because you end up needing to run 100, 200, 300 experiments. A person can usually run 5, 10 experiments and start measuring them with a spreadsheet, but when he gets to 300 experiments, it gets complicated, and that's where AI doesn't blink. They can run thousands of experiments, really quickly measure the successfulness of those experiments, and then eliminate and create new experiments based on the actual pipeline results. And that's what the power of AI gets you. So I'll just wrap it up to kind of try to visualize for you how does a bundle with metadata and Conversica looks like in action. And so it starts by metadata connecting to your system. It literally a one-click connect to your Salesforce, to your marketing automation, to your advertising channels, etc. Right after that, metadata will analyze your ideal customer profile and start generating audience. It will start generating a list of your companies using your competitor data, your competitor technologies, companies who are lookalikes of your existing top 10 percentile deals, so on and so forth. It will generate multiple audiences. You'll convert them, approve them, as well as generate new audiences however you would like. 3, it will start generating hundreds of campaign experiments, hundreds of different campaigns to see which one of them yield pipeline impact for your company. And then those leads don't just sell. Those leads will very immediately get contacted by the AI of Conversica. They'll be followed up and developed using Conversica until they reach a qualified stage. And at that point, it will contact the salesperson, tell them, hey, there is a hot lead here. The CEO of Bank of America just came through. I developed it, that lead for 3 days, is now ready for a meeting. And the salespeople will just get a meeting on their calendar with a ready-to-talk lead for a sales conversation. And that is the power of kind of combining AI, both on the demand generation side and on the AI side, where your company ends up being in a situation in which the meetings just pop up by that combination of the two companies and the two products. And that is the value proposition of Conversica and metadata. And without further ado, I will hand it off to Gary, who can speak some more about the improvements in the 4 Ps.
Awesome. Thanks, Gil. I appreciate that. Just backing up real quick. So it's nice to be able to use AI across your entire lead journey, which is pretty handy, right? So looking back at the 4 Ps, we talked a little bit about a few specifics, but if we look at the overarching performance of companies related to the 4 Ps, right? So effective lead follow-up, right? You want to be prompt, you want to be personable, you want to be persistent, and you want to perform and get through the spam trap. how are companies doing? And the answer is not so great. So if you look here, most companies are in the B, the C range, and actually more are in the C range than have been in past years. So we're headed actually not in a great direction. So lots of opportunity for improvement. AI is a very, very good way to answer that question. So most importantly, if you as a company or an organization want to improve, what does that look like? So here's kind of your money shot slide. If you want to be excellent and maximize the opportunities you get from your sales leads, you want to be the first responder, you want to be quick. Companies on average in the study took 25 hours to respond, when realistically you want 13 minutes or less. It's what the best companies were doing. You want to be persistent, try and try again. 3 contact attempts was the average. You actually want to try 10 to 12 times is what the best companies are doing. Get personal. Average was pretty good. Companies are doing 4 personalization elements on average, but even more is even better. And keep it short and simple. Do what it takes to get through the spam trap, because most companies only had about an 80% deliverability rate. And obviously anything that's lost is lost. So you want to try to get that above 91%. Obviously you want to shoot for 100%. And again, AI is an excellent way to make sure that you're doing these things. All right, we're going to move on to questions. Let's take a look at what our questions are. Gil, let's go ahead and we'll give this one to you first. It says here, how do you make sure there isn't a mismatch between message and channel when doing experiments? And how do you avoid being too personal or creepy is what the person wrote?
Great 2 questions. So first question is, when you create a new campaign with metadata, you actually get to drag and drop the audiences, the creative, the collateral into the actual channel. So you can drag and drop a particular audience to Facebook. Now you know that on Facebook that target is going to be targeted. And then the way we make sure there is no mismatch between a content and the segment that gets it is just by matching them. You'll see within the platform that when you create or duplicate an experiment, you can essentially create a correlation between, okay, this is the total cost of ownership, this goes to the financial decision maker segment. This is architecture diagram, it goes to the technical decision maker. This is a case study, it can go to both. And so making that match makes sure there are no mistakes in the experimentation process. The second one about being creepy, that's a little bit harder to answer, because at the end of the day, ads that follow people are creepy, especially when you use a solution like metadata, when you can actually run an ad on programmatic, which means the second you turn on that campaign, the right person within the right company is going to see your white paper, follow them everywhere they go, as if they visited your website and left, like a retargeting, even if they never actually heard about your brand before. So they're going to wake up in the morning and start seeing that white paper, follow them. So the best way to avoid being creepy is to provide good content, like valuable content, instead of just pushing data sheets and pushing a demo request. If you follow up with, for example, the example I mentioned before, if you're going after companies using competing technology and you're sending them a white paper, or you're showing them a white paper of why using your technology might be better than using that particular technology, or the comparison between 7 different technologies in the market, this is valuable because it educates the consumer. And so they don't have to pay anything. They just have to read that content and raise their hand and agree to be contacted. That's actually a valuable campaign. And so that's how usually you avoid that creepiness factor. And of course, we usually try not to mention things like PII. So anything that identifies the prospect is usually not being used in the creative. So the most you can use is the company name, and then it doesn't scare them away too much. Now, if Gary, for example, if you see Conversica on your Facebook ad, hopefully you appreciate it more than you get scared.
All right, great answer. We got a bunch of other questions. Let's move on to the next one. And by the way, folks, we have more questions than we're probably going to have time to answer. But if you asked a question and we don't get to it today, we will follow up with you directly. And also, again, remember to stick around, because we're going to be doing the raffle drawing immediately after the webinar. So, and again, the winners will be notified via email, but stick around. So let's look at what the next question here. Let's see. These are two questions that are kind of related. How often should one work a lead after being received? I'm going to take these ones, Gil, if you don't mind. How often should one work a lead after being received, and how many times is too many to contact leads when you are not able to make successful contact with the lead? So there's kind of a couple of questions and a couple of answers too. So let's take a look. How often? So interestingly, again, the research shows that you want to reach out, believe it or not, again, between 10 and 12 times in order to actually reach a typical person. And while that sounds like too much, it actually has been shown to be the most effective. The challenge is, as we were talking about, is even though you want that, it's not always the best use of a human's time to do that because there are diminishing returns over time. And so a person may only make sense to do it for the first couple or three times, and then you want to leverage a tool to do it afterwards. And again, that's where AI can come into play. How many times is too many to contact leads? It does depend on your industry and the type of product that you're selling. But again, on average, it's 10 to 12. For certain types of consumer goods, it could actually be more. For certain types of B2B goods, it could be less, but that's the average. All right, let's see. We're going to do one more question. Let's see. Gil, we'll take a look. So when launching ad campaigns, this is for you, Gil, how do you determine which channels to use?
So this is a great question. Based on about 7,000, 8,000 campaigns we ran so far, we've noticed that every channel is unique, right? So like there are some channels that, so let's just start with the fact that when you use a solution like metadata, you're only targeting the right people within the right company. So you're literally only targeting the cookies and the mobile device IDs and the emails, the IPs of the right personas within the right company. So you don't have to worry about bad leads, because if you were to like just go to Facebook, set up a new campaign, choose a bunch of criteria like age group, even particular professional groups, even particular companies, there is so much fraud in the data in social networks that you will end up getting many, many bad leads, like students and people from overseas that might be not being in your target market, your age group not in your target market, so on and so forth. So that worry is not there when you're targeting custom audiences that are being generated ahead of time and only then uploaded to the different advertising networks. But still, there are very big differences, and the big differences are in the engagement and in the price. So if you're able to convert your ideal customer profile on Facebook using a lead gen campaign, meaning they don't even have to go to a landing page, they literally convert right then on the spot, you just got a lead for the lowest price possible. That's literally the kind of most cost-effective way of getting a lead. As long as you're only getting good leads, it's a very kind of best way to do it. On the other side of the spectrum, there's the programmatic. This is where essentially you run an ad against a person wherever they go. Every website that is open, ESPN, YouTube, Google, NBC, Washington Post, doesn't matter. They have the tag of programmatic in there, and they make a match very quickly to that cookie. So it doesn't matter where that person is, they're going to get the ad. That ad is very, very effective because it's everywhere, but it's extremely expensive. It's usually the most expensive way of getting a lead to come to you. So to answer your question, to get influencers, to get mid-market kind of leads, I would say social media is perfect. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Quora, Pinterest, Instagram, those are perfect. As long as you're targeting the right people, you're only getting the right people, you're just getting them for a good price, and they hang out in those social media sites. Some people don't think they're by persona in Facebook. They are. And on the other side, when you have named accounts, really, really high caliber personas and high caliber accounts that are really dying to get and you're willing to pay more for them, that's a good fit for programmatic. And so with metadata, it is as simple as dragging and dropping your target accounts into programmatic and dragging and dropping the rest of your audiences into social and divvying it up the way you see fit based on your budget and based on your needs. But that's usually how we break it down.
All right, that makes sense, Gil. Looks like we got time for one last question. I'm going to grab this one. The person wrote, how does the Conversica assistant know enough about the person to personalize messages to them? Which is a great question, right? Because the whole idea here is personalization at scale. And so the best way to think about that AI assistant is kind of like if you hired a human, like a super competent, super experienced human sales assistant who just happened to be infinitely scalable and love their job and never take time off. But how would they know? They would look in your CRM or in your marketing automation system. And the Conversica assistant is the same. So she can integrate with over 45 different CRM systems, Salesforce, and marketing automation systems like Marketo, over 45 of them. And that's where she'll find the data about who they are, how they reached out, how to reach them, et cetera, what their query was, and that kind of thing. So that way she's always personal, and she can also put the information back in that she learns, so your sales reps and your marketing team understand what's been happening in the conversation and what the next things to do are. All right, there are more questions in the queue. As I mentioned, we'll follow up with you directly, so don't be sad. But in the meantime, we're going to wrap up today. Thank you, folks, so much for joining us today. We hope you've learned some interesting things about how to be maximizing the opportunities from your sales leads, how you can use AI throughout the process to do that best. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great day.